Hello, welcome to the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit, brought to you today from sunny North Africa. And today I'm joined by the lovely Maria J. McMahon. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. Just spent the morning on the beach, so I'm pretty happy and
Grounded.
grounded, very grounded. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
good.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Maria, you are an intuitive life coach. Sorry about that, my phone's on. Trauma recovery specialist. I think the trauma recovery aspect it really interests me, and you just got a new book out. So show us the book first.
Yep. So it's called Belief Alchemist. Find yourself beneath the lies.
Well,
On Amazon.
the timing is perfect because that's what we're all doing or trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we are.
So you wrote this during lockdown.
I did. I wrote it during lockdown because I was angry. And I've throughout my own healing journey, I learned to alchemize the, let's say, more dense frequencies of rage and anger. I learned to sort of express those in helpful, positive ways. That was part of my own healing journey. And I noticed you've done that a lot with your poetry as well, Mark, which has been amazing to see. And I decided that rather than just sit and just get upset and angry about what was being launched on everybody, I would do something about it. So I'd worked with people, I worked with myself for a few decades on my own traumatic beliefs and childhood. And I'd also worked for a decade with people who'd had difficult childhoods and had limiting beliefs and energy blocks and so on that they were carrying. And I just felt like this, what was happening was just so, it was bringing up everyone's trauma, which on one hand is a good thing. As you said, and you've said quite a few times, it's a spiritual quarantine. So that was bringing up people's trauma to be healed. But I felt frustrated that a lot of people would not be able to access help if they needed it. During lockdown, it was more difficult to access help for people, and all this trauma was coming up for people. So I decided to condense what I've been doing with myself and with my clients into a book, and that I could put out there, and just so that people could, to help people basically with this period that we're going through of healing, and to help people with to work with their own minds, because we have been co-opted out of our minds and out of using our minds the way that we can use them, our potential. We've been basically co-opted into our thinking mind. And this happens, from childhood. And in the school system, it's all thinking mind, thinking mind, thinking mind. And when we're stuck in a thinking mind, we are very controllable.
Well, yeah, we've all seen that. I think that's been the most amazing thing about this period, is that we've seen everybody for who they really are. And a lot of people that are realizing what's happened to them, or realizing that they were conned and coerced, is causing even waves of more trauma.
Yes.
Forward. So I think this work is really, really important at this time, and it's the driving force behind why I even do what I do on YouTube, or wherever you find this video, because it's become more apparent as time's gone by that is the big issue. It's the big issue, and we need to be there for. I mean, I know I've met you personally in Birmingham, and I know that you are legitimately a true expert in this, right? So I this is why I wanted to get you on the show. Yeah. And it's, my message has been the same throughout, which is if you share your story, or if you share your knowledge, people really need this. People need, it's a time for us to put our arms around everybody and say, it's okay, come over here, because we've been through it and we can help you. And then then there's a knock-on effect, and then that's how we get out of this situation. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for writing the book, because this is, I commend anybody that does this sort of thing. And yeah, so what do you think? You agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think for people who are afraid, and I really do understand that, you know, I have so much sympathy and empathy for that. And I have a lot of empathy as well for the people who are sort of like this, you know, I don't want to hear this, I don't want to see this, you know, because I think we all go through those stages of denial. And, you know, but in terms of what's happening, I think, and I know you share this a lot as well, it's actually really positive. And although we're sort of going through a collective dark night of the soul, really, it's because we are healing. And, you know, and we are evolving into being, you know, a sort of a more highly evolved species. A more heart-centered, collaborative, loving species, and remembering our abilities and remembering our you know, getting into alignment with our purpose on this planet. And of course there are people, there's people at so many different levels of awakening, and I think really I was pretty much with the book targeting people who already were pretty aware. They were aware. On some level, they were aware of what was happening. And they were the people who had been, a lot of these people, certainly for myself, and I know from you as well, from watching your videos, that these people had been shamed as children and made to believe that they were stupid or mad.
I've been saying this for about a year because it just came to me in one of the shows I did, that shame and guilt is the thing that's really enabled them to do this, because we hold that in, and it because of that we don't want to put our heads above the parapet, we don't want to question anybody, we don't want to step out of line, we don't want to annoy our neighbours, because we've got this collective shame and guilt. And I've been saying for quite a long time, it's time to let go of everything, right? Not just the ideas about who runs the world or what they do, because we all know how traumatic that really is, but also your own, because they've created this matrix in a way to create shame and guilt right at the beginning of life. Yeah, and whether they've done it through religion or through whatever, they've got multiple ways of doing it, and that's collectively that's the glue that's kind of held this compliance together, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I looked at some of your interviews, and I was watching one with Tracy Holloway. You did, I think you did agree with Tracy. They're absolutely brilliant. And I really resonated a lot with Tracy on quite a lot of levels. And especially being born sensitive and having experiences and then being shamed for those. You know, any kind of psychic experience, anything that was out of the box, anything that, you know, would make my adopted parents very, very uncomfortable and even angry. So I could really relate to that. And I could also relate to Tracy saying that she felt like everyone around her was lying.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And they didn't realize, you know, they didn't realize they were lying, because they're programmed to believe these beliefs, you know, and to have this worldview. And I think the people, so to get the courage to step in to your truth it's been made very, very difficult. And the shame and guilt is so profoundly locked in when you're a child. You know, it's a horrible thing, but children are easy to program. You know, a lot of children, or say most children, because they are looking for truth, and they have to trust their caregiver. Yeah. And it's very difficult. And so it gets really lodged in. And I think was it the Jesuits who said, give me a child till he's 7 and I'll show you the man?
Well, I was about to say 7 is the magic number, because it all happens before then, which is why I advocate there should be no school for children before 7 at all.
Yeah.
You know, I was speaking to somebody the other day who was talking about their child and saying, oh, I really, I've got to get them into school. And I was like, how old are they? How old's your child? And they go, 5. And I went, they don't need to go to school. And they looked at me like I was nuts because they're programmed. It's all, and you look back at people like Tony Blair going, education, education, education. What he really meant was indoctrination, indoctrination.
Yeah, he did. Good impression, by the way. Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a rough throat still, but and what we're going through is a metamorphosis.
Yes, we are.
And it's painful, and it's difficult, and it takes courage, and it's relentless. But I keep trying to laugh in the face of it and prove that we have the power. All of it is an illusion, right? People keep saying, how did you get to this country? How are you going to that country? I'm not going to tell you, because you've got to work it out for yourself. That's the whole point of my channel, is sovereignty, right? And sovereignty means taking control of your emotions, your thoughts, your financial situation, your health, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, Mark, but when I was younger, I was considered a rebel. I'm proud of that now.
Yeah, no. When I met you, I could see that, and the same here. My nickname at school was Trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I got away with it. I got away with it pretty much at school because I got involved with things. So I did. I like to have fun, and I love that as well about your channel, Mark. That fun is mandatory.
Yeah,
I think that's the only mandatory thing that we should have is fun, and so I had a lot of fun, and the teachers sort of overlooked me a little bit and let me get away with things. But I was definitely very much a rebel at home and at church. I had to go to church. I was made to go to a church that was very misogynistic. And it was funny because I was forced to go. And because I could see energy, I would look at the guy who was saying all these fear-driven, kind of hateful and some misogynistic things. And he'd be at this pulpit, not unlike the politicians we watched over the last 2 years. And he would be banging away about this fear and all the rest of it. And I would just be looking at him and thinking, your aura is very dim. I was the same.
I was the same. I mean, I went to church when I was a little boy with my great-grandparents, and it was okay where I was. The vicar was kind of okay. But then I ended up going out with a few Catholic girls and going to church with them. And literally, when I walked into a Catholic church, it was like Damien being taken into the church in The Omen. I was just like, get me out of here. And I didn't quite understand it, but I do remember looking at priests going, there's something so wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
So wrong. And that's happened to me a lot. So I stayed away from churches for a very long time. And it's, when you have that instinct and when you know that, and you're a kid, you trust your intuition.
Yes, you do.
More than you do when you're older.
Yes, you do. That's just so true. And I think this is why children, in a way, they're very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that. We know that's why they do what they do.
Yeah, we do know that. And this is because they're very, very powerful creators. And it's because they haven't got these BS beliefs in the way. They're not in the way. It's not they haven't got this kind of mismatch between I can create this and no, you can't, it's not possible. And that's where the thinking mind and the programming comes in.
Yeah.
No, you can't. And the children, they don't have that. And they're so in touch with what's right and wrong, and they can feel it in their body and they believe their body because their thinking mind isn't developed yet. It's not kind of programmed. Exactly. So because they're so intuitive, they're much harder to fool, and they're much harder to, but they are these incredible creators. And so I wrote in the book in layman's terms how our mind works, because this information isn't new, and obviously it's out there, and it's been out there for thousands of years, but it's been kept away from us. It's been, you know, in the mystery schools, and it's been written in metaphor and hidden in texts, so that most people don't, you know, you've got to really look for it, and you've got to really kind of chip away and search for it to find it, to uncover it. But this is information that should be available to all of us. And, you know,
100%. I mean, the word occult just means hidden. That's all the word means. It's hidden. And I remember as a kid being very drawn to occult stuff and feeling like it was naughty, you know, because I was just so inquisitive all the time, and I looked into myths and legends, and I read all sorts of stuff about dark things and magic and stuff like that, because, well, I understand why now, because that's what I'm here for. But I didn't, as a kid, I just intuitively went to it, because I was reminding myself of this stuff because I was preparing myself for this time. All that makes sense now, but you know, you don't realize that as you're going through life. And yeah, these things should all be taught to children. And I think, I mean, look, in the last week, I've met two people, and I've met a lot of people, but there's two people in particular. I had to keep my lips sealed a little bit about what I do, because it's too much for some people to handle. But because I went to a big party, but two people told me, sorry, I'll get there, I'm rambling. What I was talking about is the DNA activation that's going on right now. This metamorphosis that's happening right now, DNA activation is part of that, and these abilities are coming online. The abilities that I've now got compared to 2 years ago are incredible. Everything is based upon this feeling, my intuition.
Yeah.
Psychic abilities are off the charts. Seeing spaceships, calling them in, all sorts of amazing things. And I think, you know, this is just a revealing of these things. And I was saying this to two friends of mine, and both of them independently said that they remember levitating when they were kids.
Oh, me too, Mark.
Hey, this is why I'm telling you.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
Now I think I levitated when I was a kid as well.
Do you know something? Yeah, you don't forget things like that. I mean, you have a feeling, because if something like that has happened to you, it's pretty profound, and it's not really something you forget. And again, you know, if you look into the mystical texts, like Teresa of Avila, she's a Christian mystic, but you know, you look into the text, Jesus Christ, who I actually believe was a mystic, you know, walked on water. So Teresa of Avila levitated, and others. I think John of the Cross also did. So if you look into these, but of course, again, we're not learning this stuff at school. It's literally, you know, Harry Potter. You know, some people, it's like, oh no, that's just for some people. That's just for the Hogwarts people.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're a wizard, and everyone else, you know, isn't to know this stuff. And it's sort of, yeah, I think more and more people are remembering these things, and instead of pushing them down and denying it and saying, well, no, that can't have happened, they're saying, well, what if it did happen? It feels like it happened. Maybe it did happen.
Well, I think I converted that memory into a dream.
Yeah.
And what I've really, you know, and throughout the last 10 years, I think it was about 10 years ago that I realized that I'd had an out of body experience whilst I was being operated on for meningitis when I was about 8 years old.
Right.
And I turned that into something else. And then it dawned on me at one night, hang on, the memory of me talking to somebody, which I thought was a nurse, was actually of me looking down on my body, not sideways, while they were doing this lumbar puncture on me. And I think that's what kids do. They convert strange experiences into dreams, or they get told to put it away by their parents or their carers or whatever, or by their school teachers. I mean, one of my sons remembered his past life in the first 6 months of his ability to talk, and he refused to be referred to by the name that we'd given him. He would only be referred to by another name. And then he told us his whole history, family, totally different, the car, and then he told us about drowning when he was 8 years old.
And he's not alone, is he, Mark? There's lots of stories like that.
No, there's tons. I mean, there was at one point there was a Hollywood production company in touch with us making a film because they were looking for, you know, kids to tell them.
Children. I think I might have seen that.
Well,
Yeah.
we refused to do it actually in the end because we thought he deserved his privacy, and I don't want to break that privacy. But it's a really good point to bring up here, because when these two people were telling me this about the levitation, they're very close, these two, and I said, "Did you know that she levitated?" And she was like, "No." She said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she was like, "I did tell you." And I kind of like, and even then I was observing them, going, "Oh, that's so interesting how they've just both forgotten."
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's so this whole thing's just so fascinating. I mean, in my therapy practice, I would, you know, because law of attraction, I would attract clients who would tell me things like this, and they would start talking about them, and then they wouldn't realize their voice had dropped to a whisper.
Yeah.
Talking.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you know, because they felt like somebody, you know, somebody told them to shut up, and they were reenacting that. And your parents will tell you it's a dream. So when a child goes to their mom and dad and says, "Hey, you know, this happened to me last night," the mum and dad who are indoctrinated into the material world will say, "Oh, well, that's just a dream." You're frozen. You're frozen. I hope a wizard hasn't frozen you, Mark. Hello, Mark. Being told things.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I just had an issue with the Wi-Fi situation. So anyway, Maria's back.
I thought you'd been frozen by a wizard, Mark, but thankfully not. But
No,
yeah, I mean,
no.
yeah, it's being told that these things aren't true when you're a child. And then if you keep saying things, getting shamed for it because it didn't go with the narrative that we just live in a material world and we're just material creatures.
Yeah, so our message is the same, which is everybody watching this, go inside, meditate, go in the present moment. I was talking about the quad biking because what I loved about it is that I was in the present moment. You know, I was quad biking down an empty beach, and it was such wonderful. I was meditating while I was doing it. I was doing my affirmations. I was doing my affirmations for my children, and then I started thinking about the levitation because energetically, I was already connecting with you, and I knew that this was going to come up as a subject, and I was like, we need to talk about this because these are the things that we're unlocking, and you writing that book, me doing this channel, and all the other people doing amazing work around the world are really doing it to hold the hands and help people as they go through the process of realizing that we live in a magical realm, and we have actually got magical abilities that are mind-blowing, which is why it's taking time, because you can't just turn somebody into Superman, you know. It's going to be very traumatic.
Yeah, I mean, it scares people because we all, whatever our worldview is, we have some kind of, you know, kind of security and familiarity with it. I mean, the interesting thing about all this stuff and stuff that helps me when I talk to people is that it's always been there.
Yeah.
You know, it's in myth, it's in legend, it's in story, it's in, you know, holy texts. It's always been there. And it's sort of like, you know, somebody just told you this part's real and that part's a story. And all you need to do is open up into, you know, no, all this stuff happens. All this stuff is real. I mean, people will go and see a psychic and kind of then compartmentalize it off from the rest of the world. And I'm not criticizing anyone for wherever they are in the awakening. Like I say, I have a lot of empathy for everybody, really. But this is a strange phenomena, isn't it? That a lot of people will go and pay to see a psychic and be very quiet about it as well, not tell their friends.
Yeah.
You know, but go see the psychic. You know, he or she tells them all sorts of information. They're like, oh yeah, that's, you know, and then they go off and use that information and then kind of think that's just that weird psychic. That's okay. It's just them. You know, they'll think, oh, it's not me. I couldn't do this. I'm not intuitive. I'm not, and like wall it off from themselves.
Well, that's really, that's what the sovereignty thing is all about, believe it. Firstly, you've got to believe that you can do it. I mean, manifesting, that's why I've been teaching manifesting for the last 8 years to anybody that will listen.
Right.
Because I look back at my life and I went, hang on, how did I do that? How did I do? Because people kept saying stuff to me like, I remember going for a job, right? A job, me with a job. How ridiculous. But
What were you doing, Mark? What were you doing?
I was broke. I'd left the Air Force and I was finished my degree, and I edited this magazine for a year, and I was broke. I was flat broke. So I went for this job interview and I blitzed it, right? And in the interview, the guy said, "Hang on, you've been a pilot, you're a published poet, you've done stand-up comedy, you've got a degree," and just coming off this list of things. And at the end of the interview, he was like, "That was the best interview we've ever had. You're amazing." And I went out, met my friends, went to the bar, started having a couple of drinks, celebrating, and then I got a phone call 2 hours later saying, "No, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up." And I had that a number of times with when I met my now ex-wife. She got the same thing. Her friends said that I don't believe this guy's story. It just doesn't add up.
Because it's too much.
Yeah,
because
but it was not true. Because I kept flipping between this and that and the other because I wasn't attached to anything. I mean, when I left the Air Force, people thought I was completely nuts, but I was like, I'm following this. This is not where I want to be. Even though I've spent 10 years getting in, I was like, no, I can't be here anymore because that's not. So I've just always followed that path of stepping into the void. Always step into the void, because I was actually having this conversation just 2 days ago. So just step into the void. You will be caught. You will be caught, and then magical things happen because you're manifesting it.
Yes, you are. And it's so fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I was brought up with the Bible, and we had to learn the Bible. We had to, and I remember, I think it's Romans chapter 8. And I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I do believe there's truth in all of these, in the Tao, in the Bible, in Buddhism, all of it. There's the threads of truth run through it, don't they?
Yep.
And it's those who are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. And that one always stuck with me, because I thought, I sort of follow my spirit. This kind of resonates with me. This is what I do. I don't follow my thinking brain.
I don't.
I follow my spirit. And I ended up doing lots of different strange and things that looked like they didn't kind of go together, but they did.
Yeah, well, I find it very, very difficult to now sit down and do the kind of work I used to do.
Yeah.
Because it involves me using the brain. My brain just doesn't work the same anymore.
Yes.
I've forgotten words. I've forgotten all sorts of things, and it just bores me to death. I want to be doing and being. Being is what I'm focusing on, and manifesting everything that you want really easily, actually. And
totally opening your heart chakra. I mean, it's in my book. I don't know if I've overdone it. Please, somebody tell me if I've overdone my rant in my book, because I have ranted a little bit about the thinking mind and how we've been co-opted into it, and that actually we should be coming from here and how to get into there. So I've got instructions of how to get into there and how to access your, what I call the divine mind, which is your creative manifesting mind. And the reason so many people don't know what their purpose is because they're stuck in here. And your purpose doesn't come from there, it comes from here.
100%. And I said something on Telegram the other day that somebody got annoyed with, and I said, if you look at the embryo as it's formed, everything grows off the guts. Everything, the arms, the legs, the heart, the brain, everything, right?
Yes.
And somebody argued with me and said, no, it grows off the heart or something. And I was like, no, go and look at it, because it's not true. And this is why we have a gut. I think our brain is really our gut.
Well, it is. Yeah.
It's in our language. We say things like, I've got a bad vibe, or a good vibe, or a gut feeling, right? That's your brain. It's there, but your brain here, because they write about everything, right? So your brain here is really a transceiver.
It is. And I mean, in my book, I've called the brain, I've personified the parts, because I thought, and I've made them cartoons. And the brain is the personal secretary and bodyguard. That's what it is. The thinking mind is there to as your secretary, but it's a secretary to the divine mind, which is here. So this is what tells you what you want and who you are and what your purpose is. And then you use this to get on with it, to do the things that take the action steps you need to get on with it. And we've all just been put here and kind of imprisoned there, and then, you know, manipulated from there. And I mean, even now, you know, even science, for people who love science, even now science is talking about gray matter in the heart and gray matter in the gut. So is, you know, we have gray matter here and gray matter in our gut, and also the Heart Math Institute in America.
Yeah, I've studied. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes I will drive the car and deliberately not look where I'm going, because
Remind me to dodge you in Ireland. I'm just kidding.
because I know my energetic field is out there, and I can sense. So it's a way of training my sense. I don't do it when there's kids in the car, or
Yeah.
but I can sense things like coming towards me, and then as soon as I sense it, I look, and then I go, yeah, I got it right. You know, I don't risk anybody's lives doing that, but
But absolutely, and you know, when they train special forces,
yeah,
they talk about, they use these senses. Can you feel someone behind you? Can you you know, to sharpen them?
of course. I mean, there was more money spent on the remote viewing program in the 60s and 70s, and maybe earlier, but definitely around that time, during the Cold War, than there was spent on the nuclear programs. People don't understand that. Why?
No,
Why would government
exactly.
spend billions on remote viewing? Why? Because it works. It's real. It's true.
Do you know, I think a lot of people, and again, I can understand this in a way, you know, we all do it. And there's this old phrase, isn't there? A man convinced against his will hold the same opinion still. And it's all about, you know, it's about comfort levels. It's about feeling comfortable. And it's easier for people to think, oh, well, those governments were just, well, they just got too much money to blow, or, you know, it's easier to write something off that disturbs, or, you know, your worldview, than to think, hold on a second, these are intelligent people. They know what they're doing. This is massive amounts of money. This is crazy amounts of money. Yep. You know, if you're going to believe in the rockets and all that, you know, that you've got to believe in the other stuff. You can't, you know, the amount of money spent on that, you've got to believe in the other stuff. It's sort of a bit, but I do understand, again, it's comfort levels. And I think, thankfully, people are starting to get more comfortable with the fact that this is not a 3D reality that we're living in, and that we are not 3D creatures. We have mind, body, and spirit, you know.
Oh yeah, I'm getting it all now. Somebody told me, yeah, when was it? I had a call yesterday, I think, and somebody said, you're in 5D, and I was like, yeah, I am. And this is why I'm going out in the world, because, you know, we spent 2 years not being able to travel for a start. So, you know, that's why I'm holding events. That's why I'm touring in America. That's why I'm out here. This is why I'm, you know, running a retreat here as well. This is why it's so important that people start. I mean, we met at an event I did in Birmingham. You know, the getting together of the people is the key, because it gives you more courage, and it connects you to other people that already know this, right? So we're all walking each other home. We're all helping each other on the way, and that's the wonderful collaborative part of this process that I'm really enjoying. And I'm surprised, you know, and the more that I talk about this stuff to people that aren't necessarily there, the more surprised I get that then they open up to me.
Yes. And they'll tell you, oh, well, actually, yeah, this happened to me, or that happened to me, and I saw a ghost when I was a child, or you know, and it all comes up, doesn't it? The other thing that's really cool, and I love this fact of entrainment. So, you know, when we're around each other and we're all raising our frequency, basically, and we're all dealing with our trauma, just being around other people who are doing that is a healing It's
in and of itself.
Yes, it is. They did. I think it was my son was telling me yesterday or something. They did an experiment with dogs, and they put a dog that was sick in with a pack of healthy dogs, and they found that that was the fastest way to heal that dog, rather than treating the dog separately. And we're not dogs, we're human beings, but the same thing applies with entrainment.
That's why you shouldn't go to hospital, because you're surrounded by sick people.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yes, you are.
And I've been saying this to my eldest son for years. I said, you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend most time with.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever your ambition is, if you want to be a healer, go and hang out with healers. If you want to be rich, go and hang out with millionaires. You can't, your frequency matches, and when people understand that the Heart Math Institute teach the fact that the radius of your heart energy is like 2 miles, right?
Yes.
And this is also why they wanted everybody separated. This is all part of it, because they knew this was coming, this time was coming, and they're just trying to stop it any way they could. And they've failed, they've lost.
The earth, the frequency of the earth is changing.
Yeah.
And, and of course we are inhabitants of the earth. So we are changing. We have to change in line with our environment that we live in, or it's adapt and survive, or don't adapt and don't survive. That's basically what we're, the situation we're in. And I think it's really interesting, you're saying about the Heart Math Center. I love the work they're doing. But also things like stories like Anita Morjani, who had, I don't know if you've read her book, Dying to Be Me.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's amazing. So she had stage 4 cancer. She was dying. Her family were told to come and say goodbye, basically. She was having her last surgery. There's a sort of a last ditch attempt to try to save her, but they were told that, come and say goodbye. And she had an out-of-body experience on the operating table, and her awareness, she was aware of her brother, who I think was in India. She knew what he was wearing. She knew he was getting on a plane to come and see her. This is how her awareness had expanded to this degree. She knew what the doctors were saying outside of the operating, down the hall, the conversations people were having. And she miraculously healed from her cancer and came back to tell everybody about it and about her experience, wrote this book. Also, My Stroke of Insight is another fascinating story about a lady who I think she was brain surgeon, but I'm not sure. But she basically had a stroke, and she'd been pretty left-brained before this, and it took out her entire left brain. Mm-hmm. So she had no memory of who she was. She didn't know her name. She didn't know her mum. She knew nothing. So all of her identity was just wiped out with this stroke for a period of time. She had to learn it all. Mm-hmm. But her right brain, wide open. She could feel people's energy. Again, this expansion.
Amazing.
It is, isn't it?
I've only got 5 minutes left, because I've got to do a live. I'm just going to share, and you will come back and do another show, but this is Maria's website, mariajmcmahon.com.
Thanks for saying that. You pronounced that right, Mark. Most people don't.
Well, I've been in Ireland for a few years, and I've learned a few tricks. Even though it took me a while. So you can go there, and there's information on the books here. So please do that. Now, also, you asked me to read a poem. Do you really want me to do that?
I love your voice, Mark. And
now, my voice is definitely changing. I'm going through something here, because this throat thing has been going on for 6 weeks.
Right.
I thought about it this morning. I thought, well, actually, maybe I am changing. There's lots of things changing physically
in
with
our
me.
bodies. Yeah.
I'm noticing lots of things. I've had this skin tag for years, and now it's
gone.
Suddenly gone black, and it's falling off. It's like there's tons of things going on like that. Nothing else big falling off,
Well, that's good. Your voice doesn't end up like this, because you've got really good.
No, I hope not.
Yeah,
thank you.
Me too.
I've got. Can you see the screen now? This is the poem you wanted me to read.
Yes.
Okay, I'll do it just for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alchemy 4. Is that right? Is that the right title?
Yeah.
So I've not not had time to read this properly. If I get any words wrong, everybody just excuse me. But this is by Maria. For all the children raised in the dark who managed to find their way back to the heart, a braver soldier has never been seen than the little boy of 4 years old, with no one to love him and no one to hold, with fear in his heart that he'll never be seen, and reasons to wonder this point of his being. So he decides to go and live in his head and dream of better worlds instead. But after a while he loses himself and begins to imagine he's somebody else. Detached from his heart, he feels numb but safe from the terrible truths he cannot yet face. So he builds an acceptable face for the world, whilst behind the mask the little boy lays, curled up and sobbing, alone in the caves. When the man's grown up, he decides to be brave and look for the little boy lost in the caves, knowing now it's time to start the difficult road back to his heart. He takes his time and spends the days moving through caves of repression and rage. Layer by layer, he moves slowly through until he discovers the ultimate truth. The truth that the little boy was never told as he sobbed in his bed at 4 years old. That his parents were children raised in the dark who never found their way back to their hearts. So they passed on to him their anger and fear, and feeling not good enough to be here. And with that, the lie that feels like a curse, that we live in an unfriendly universe. As the boy listened carefully to what he was told, his tight little body began to unfold, and a smile bright as day shone from his face, as he now understood divinity's grace. That we're all bound together by a force from above, the force of unconditional love. It runs straight through the core of our being. It's only the lie that stops us from seeing that we're worthy and loved, despite the times we felt estranged from the divine. So here's how a man moved past the curse and found the friendly universe. And now he cheers on those who start to find their own way back to their hearts. That's beautiful.
Thank you for reading that, Mark.
That's gorgeous. And I think that sums up this chat brilliantly. And you guys watching this, go to Maria's website, support her, get her book, and let's get you back on soon. I've got to go because I timed a thing with a chat with somebody in the States, Lewis Holmes, so I've got to go and do that. It's lovely to speak to you. I hope to meet you again.
Yeah, you too.
In the near future.
Definitely.
You take care of yourself. I'll see you soon.
You too, Mark. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.